This video is all about 15 free garment knitting patterns, so sweaters and cardigans. This is going to be part 1 of a series, and the next video is going to be about free accessory patterns. But for now, let's focus on the free sweater knitting patterns. Let's get started. The first pattern that I want to show you is the Sjöbod sweater by Sigrid Marie Blom. It was published in February of 2024. And the yarn that was used is from the Swedish company Sjöbod, who also published the pattern. The yarn that was used is a 100% wool sport weight yarn with a gauge of 20 stitches and 28 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 2.5 and a US 4 and a US 6, which corresponds to a 3mm, a 3.5mm and a 4mm needle. The pattern comes in 8 different sizes with a recommended ease of 20 to 25 centimeters or 8 to 9 3/4 inches. And the finished garment measurements around the bust range from 41 up to 66.5 inches or 104 up to 169 centimeters. The sweater is worked from the top down, beginning with an invisible cast on at one of the shoulders. Then the back, shoulders, neckline and front are worked back and forth with increases and decreases for the shaping. Next, the body is worked from the top down, like I mentioned, with this colorwork stripe pattern. And at the bottom hem you have a ribbing edge. And finally you knit the neckband and fold it down and invisibly sew it down on the wrong side. I think this is a very beautiful design. It looks contemporary to me while also being classic, and this is one I would absolutely love to make in the future. Next up is the Huldra pullover, which is actually a vest, and this is a design by Inga Semmingsen, which was also published by the Swedish yarn company Sjöbod, this time knitted with an Aran weight yarn. The design came out in December of 2023. And the gauge is 17 stitches and 22 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a 4.5 and a 5.5mm needle, which corresponds to a US 7 and a US 9. There are again 8 sizes available with a finished bust measurement of the garment ranging from 32.25 up to 59 inches or 82 up to 150 centimeters. Unfortunately, with this design there is no information about the recommended ease. The vest is knitted from the top down and features both ribbing and stockinette. You first cast on for the neck and work the ribbing at the same time as increasing for the sleeves. There are short rows added on the back neck for shaping, and you divide the back and the front while shaping the underarms and then join again in the round and knit down. Another very beautiful design, and I think with this Aran weight yarn it would also knit up rather quickly. Next up is a gorgeous all over colorwork design by Marie Wallin, which is called Lapwing. It was published in July of 2018 and is knitted in a fingering weight yarn from the Grey Sheep company. And the yarn base is called Hampshire 4-ply. The gauge is 32 stitches and 29 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. So I imagine this would take some time to knit up. And the needle sizes used are a US 2 and a US 3, which corresponds to a 2.75 and a 3.25mm needle. The design comes in 5 different sizes, and although there is no information about the finished bust measurements of the garment, it states in the pattern that the smallest size is intended to fit a bust ranging from 81 to 86 centimeters, which corresponds to 32 up to 34 inches. And the largest size is going to fit a bust size of 122 up to 127 centimeters, which corresponds to 48 to 50 inches. This is a semi-fitted sweater with 3/4 length sleeves, and it is stated in the pattern that the colorwork is easy to knit and that this design would be a good first Fair Isle garment to knit, which is great to know. It is knitted flat in pieces, however, and this means that you will not only have to work with 2 different colors at a time on the right side, but also on the wrong side. So you would have to purl the color work, which can be a bit challenging. Since the garment is knitted in pieces, this also means that you have to seam up the pieces in the end to create the finished garment. But this is such a beautiful design that I think it would be definitely worth giving it a try, especially since this is a completely free pattern. Next up is the Glaciär pullover Women by the West Strand Sisters. This is another design that was published by the Swedish yarn company Sjöbod, again with the Aran weight yarn that was also used for the, the Huldra vest. The design came out in November of 2022 and has a gauge of 18 stitches and 30 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 4 and a US 6, which correspond to a 3.5 and a 4 millimeter needle. You are also going to need a hook to make this design because there is a provisional cast on in the pattern. The design comes in 8 different sizes with a positive ease of 13 centimeters or 5¼ inches. And the sweater chest measurements range from 36¾ inches up to 63 inches or 93.5 centimeters up to 160 centimeters. The sweater is worked from the top down in the round, so in one piece, and includes short rows to lengthen the back so that it is extra cozy, which you can see on the picture here. It has a contrast color inside the double neckband and also on the cuffs and the lower edge, which I think looks very beautiful. And in case you like this particular pattern, there is also a men's version as well as a mitten pattern available, both also for free. Next up is another beautiful all-over colorwork design, and it is the Saga cardigan by Rentrée. This one was published in August of 2021, again by the Swedish yarn company Sjöbod, and uses a sport weight yarn with a gauge of 22 stitches and 27 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 2.5 and a US 6, which correspond to 3 millimeter and 4 millimeter needles. The design comes in 9 different sizes. Unfortunately, there is no information about the ease that is recommended, but the final bust measurements from the garment range from 33½ inches up to 61¼ inches or 85 up to 155.5 centimeters. It is stated in the pattern that the stranded colorwork is easy to knit because there are only short floats. But if you do decide to make this design, you also have to know how to crochet because all of the edges are finished with crochet in a contrast color. The cardigan is worked in the round from the top down with a yoke and is later on sticked in order to become a cardigan. So this could also be an interesting first sticking project, I think. The yoke is shaped with increases and then you split for the body and the sleeves and work each sleeve and the body separately, and at the end you cut up the stick in the center front and add the front bands. Next up is the Barley Field cardigan by JoJo Knitwear. This just came out in September of 2024 and was published by the yarn company Sjöbod, and that's also why the suggested yarns are both from Sjöbod. They recommend holding the Sjöbod Divina, which is an alpaca, nylon and wool blend, together with the Sjöbod Soft Alpaca, which is a 100% alpaca lace weight yarn. So both of these yarns held together create a worsted weight gauge, no, not a worsted, a bulky weight gauge with 15 stitches and 26 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needles used are a US 8 and a US 9, which correspond to 5 millimeter and 5.5 millimeter needles. The pattern comes in 6 different sizes and the finished bust measurements range from 85 to 90 up to 120 to 130 centimeters or 33.5 to 35.4 up to 47.2 to 51.2 inches. There is no information in the pattern about the recommended ease. The design is worked flat from the top down. You have those raglan sleeves and a beautiful lace pattern on the front piece. The rest of the cardigan is worked in plain stockinette stitch, and the lace pattern only comes in a charted version. So if you want to make this pattern, you have to be able to read charts, and this beautiful design also comes as a sweater version, which is also available for free. So this might also something to consider. Next up is the Ballerina wrap top, a beautiful pattern by Alexandra Tavel from Two of Wands. Now this pattern comes in both a short sleeve and a long sleeve version, and the short sleeve version is available for free on her blog. But if you want to get the pattern from the blog, you will have to deal with the ads there, or you could also opt for purchasing the pattern. If you want to make the long sleeve version but want to use the free pattern, I assume it would be quite simple to figure out how to go from the short sleeve version to the long sleeve version by just lengthening the sleeves and doing a couple of decreases. The pattern was published in February of 2024 and uses the Sorella yarn in the classic DK base. The gauge is 20 stitches and 27 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches, and the needle size used is a US 6, which corresponds to a 4mm needle. The pattern comes in 9 different sizes, with a suggested negative ease of 0 to 2 inches or 0 to 5 centimeters. The bust circumference when the cardigan is fully wrapped ranges from 28 to 60 inches or 71 to 152.5 centimeters. And I also wanted to read the pattern description to you, which is on the Ravelry project page, because I think it is very fitting for this design. It says, add a trendy feminine touch to your wardrobe this fall with the Ballerina wrap top. This cropped cutie pairs perfectly with high-waisted jeans or sailor pants and looks stunning on its own or atop a camisole. This sweater top moves from day to night effortlessly and also looks lovely and elegant with a pencil skirt and bandana scarf. I think this is a stunning design, and I would absolutely love to make some kind of ballerina wrap top in the near future. So we'll see if I do decide to make this one or maybe a similar version. Next up is another stunning design, this time a very classic sweater called La Rentrée by Sonderjanko. This one just came out in September of 2024, and since it is published by Melissa Clulo from Sonderjanko, it is also knitted in their yarns. She used 2 strands of their silk mohair base, which is called Halo Held Together. And this comes out to a DK weight yarn with a gauge of 19 stitches and 25 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 6 and a US 7, which corresponds to a 4mm and a 4.5mm needle. The design comes in 10 different sizes, ranging from 41.25 inches up to 72 inches or 105 up to 183 centimeters. So this is designed to be worn with quite a lot of positive ease. The recommended positive ease is 6 to 10 inches or 15 to 25.5 centimeters. And with this design, there's also a description on the Ravelry project page that I wanted to read to you. It says, La Rentrée marks the return to school, work, and the rhythm of daily life. A time to leave behind the ease of summer and embrace the crisp, energizing promise of fall. This sweater pattern embodies this transition beautifully. The light, cozy fabric offers effortless warmth, while the folded neckline adds a touch of comfort. Breezy statement sleeves balance relaxed elegance with structure, accentuated by ribbed details. It's the perfect blend of summer's laid-back energy and the renewed focus on fall routines. Now, this is a design I would definitely love to make in the future. I think it is classic but also basic, and I'm sure I would get a ton of wear out of a sweater like this one. Next up is another cardigan, and it is the Folklore cardigan by Lion Brand. Now this one is of course also worked with Lion brand yarn. They recommend the Ease Solids Heathers Twists yarn, which is an Aran weight yarn and is a blend of acrylic and wool. This design came out in January of 2020 and has a gauge of 16 stitches and 22 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle size used is a US 9, which corresponds to a 5.5 millimeter needle. The design comes in only 3 different sizes, unfortunately, ranging from 45 up to 60 inches or 114.5 up to 152.5 centimeters. It is knitted in pieces and later on seamed together and features this beautiful cable pattern and those contrasting button bands and cuffs, which I think make a very stunning design. Next up is another classic sweater, this time with stripes, and it is the Hokkaido sweater by Sitzel Grau. This one was published in March of 2021, and the yarn that was used is the Hjelholz Ullspinnery Handwerks yarn. I hope that's right. It is an Aran weight yarn with a gauge of 17 stitches and 22 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. And the needle size used is a US 8, which corresponds to a 5 millimeter needle. This design comes in 6 different sizes, ranging from 100 to 150 centimeters or 40 to 60 inches. And it is recommended to have quite a lot of positive ease, 15 to 17 centimeters or 6 to 7 inches. The design is worked from the top down in all over stockinette stitch. Now on the Ravelry project page, it says that this design has kind of a saddle shoulder that is placed on the back rather than on the shoulder, which makes it almost invisible from the front. And the neck, bottom hem and sleeve cuffs feature this extra long ribbing, which I think looks very nice and elegant together with these stripes, and this is another pattern that I would love to make in the future. Next up is another cable design, and this is the Honeycomb Aran by Gail Bunn. It was published in September of 2014, and the yarn used is the Patons North America Classic Wool Worsted, which is a 100% wool yarn. This is a worsted weight yarn with a gauge of 19 stitches and 25 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. And the needles used are a US 6 and a US 8, which correspond to a 4 millimeter and a 5 millimeter needle. The design comes in 6 different sizes, ranging from 40 to 62 inches or 101.5 up to 157.5 centimeters. It is knitted in pieces and then seamed and is an all-over cable design. So I imagine it would be a more elaborate knit, but very classic and very beautiful. Next up is the Kiuru sweater by Ronja Hakaleto. This one was published in different magazines. It was featured both in the Burda magazine and also in Novita. And it first came out in July of 2021. It is a classic yoke construction featuring this colorwork on the yoke. And the suggested yarn is the Novita Natural Collection Icelandic Wool, which is an Aran weight yarn with a gauge of 18 stitches and 24 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 6 and a US 7, which corresponds to a 4 millimeter and a 4.5 millimeter needle. The design comes in 6 different sizes, ranging from a body circumference of 88 to 128 centimeters or 34 3/4 up to 50.5 inches. There is no information about the positive ease that's recommended. And like I said, this is a classic colorwork yoke construction that is knitted from the top down in one piece. Next up is the J sweater by Rachel Brockman, and it came out in July of 2019. The suggested yarn is the Fibra Natura Kingston Tweed, which is a blend of wool, alpaca and rayon, and it is a DK weight yarn with a gauge of 23 stitches and 30 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 5, 6 and 7, which correspond to a 3.75, a 4 and a 4.5 millimeter needle. The design comes in 9 different sizes with finished bust circumferences ranging from 33.5 up to 65.5 inches or 85 up to 166 centimeters. The sweater is worked seamlessly in the round from the top down, and the neckline and sleeve cuffs are worked in a contrasting color. Now on the Ravelry project page there is a statement by the designer about the inspiration for this design that I wanted to read to you. It says, "Named after forest-dwelling jays, this slightly cropped sweater subtly nods to the patterning on their plumage. From scrub jays to blue jays, I've always admired the confidence and curiosity of these beautiful birds. Perfect for those curious knitters seeking to boost their colorwork confidence, this straightforward pullover would be a great first yoked sweater." Next up is another beautiful cardigan design, and it is the Sommarkoftan 2023 by Maja Karlsson. It was published in June of 2023, again by the Swedish yarn company Sjöbod, and uses their sport weight yarn. The gauge is 25 stitches and 30 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches, and it is knitted with a US 2.5 or a 3 millimeter needle. The cardigan comes in 8 different sizes, with final garment chest measurements ranging from 34.25 up to 59.75 inches or 87 up to 152 centimeters. The cardigan is knitted from the bottom up and in one piece, and it is cropped and features this beautiful colorwork panel which is framed by a decorative lace pattern. If you are interested in making this design, you should definitely have a look at Ravelry, because there are a number of very different but all very beautiful versions there to get inspired by. Next up is another sweater pattern that I wanted to show you, and it is the Galia sweater by Camille K. This one was published in August of 2024, again by the yarn company Sjöbod. And the sample was of course also knitted with Sjöbod yarn, this time with their Friends Kit silk, which is a blend of mohair silk and wool. 2 strands are held together in this design to create a DK weight gauge of 20 stitches and 29 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. The needle sizes used are a US 4, 6 and 7, which correspond to a 3.5, 4 and 4.5 millimeter needle. The design comes in 6 different sizes with finished bust circumferences ranging from 96 up to 142 centimeters or 37.75 up to 56 inches. The sweater is designed to be worn with quite a lot of positive ease. It's 10 to 20 centimeters or 4 to 8 inches. What I really like about this design is the balloon sleeves that feature this beautiful lace motif, and besides that it is a drop shoulder construction and it is knitted from the top down. So those are my 15 pattern suggestions. Please let me know in the comments which of these designs you would like to cast on. I would love to know. And if you would like to know what I'm currently knitting on, I recommend that you have a look at this video next. Until next time, bye guys!